Now, depending on the state of your team and your chip strategy, Game Week 27 might be the ideal time for you to hit the wildcard button. And if it is, I've got a couple of drafts for you. Right then, when picking a wildcard draft, it's really important to just be cognizant of the fixtures we've got coming up and your chip strategy to deal with them. Obviously, if you're playing your wildcard in 27, you're going to use it then. But the other chip that I think is really important to consider is when you're going to use your free hit. Because Game Week 29 is, well, an awkward blank game week. And I know I'm going early with this video, right, before the FA Cup games have played out. We could get a couple of shock results that are confirmed, and some teams actually have a fixture in Game Week 29, which might not be expected to. And I've used the Ben Crellin fixtures spreadsheet as my source here. What he's done very kindly is provided the fixtures that could blank in Game Week 29, along with their probability of doing so, right? So you can see, in reality, there's only one fixture at the moment that has a greater than 50% chance of being on, and that's Luton and Nottingham Forest, right? They've only got a 45% chance of blanking. You can see the rest of the teams, they're in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. So in reality, those are the only couple of teams you could realistically risk going for if you're not playing your free hit in Game Week 29. Of course, if you are, you don't have to worry about who you pick in entirety, right? You can pick anyone because you're going to use your free hit to deal with the blank and then have your team back to normal for Game Week 30. But yeah, if you're avoiding your free hit, it's quite obvious the teams that you have to pick from, right? We've got Brentford with a confirmed fixture, Aston Villa, Burnley, Fulham, West Ham and Tottenham all with a confirmed fixture being on. And then Luton and Nottingham Forest with a 45% chance of blanking. Like I said, the only teams below 50%. So with that out of the way, let's get on to a couple of drafts. I think the most common way to play it is playing your wildcard in Game Week 27 and also still using your free hit in Game Week 29. So that's the draft I'm going to go through first. Now, I think Neto, based on that, is probably the best keeper to get into your team. He's got Burnley in Game Week 27, and then in Game Week 28, he's got a really nice double game week of Sheffield United and Luton, both at home. And I've gone with that same sort of mindset around Senesi as well. He's probably the Bournemouth defender with the most attacking upside, and of course has the same 3 great fixtures over the next couple of game weeks as Neto does, right? Gabriel and Saliba are my other 2 defenders. Arsenal are the best defence in the league statistically for expected goals conceded. They're the most frugal defence in the league, and they've scored the most goals of any team in the league from set pieces. Now they've got Declan Rice taking corners, right? They look like they could score from every single set piece they get. Gabriel and Saliba are the main targets of those set pieces from Declan Rice, right? So not only have they got a potential for keeping clean sheets, but they also have a potential for getting some attacking returns as well. I've gone for Areola and Charlie Taylor on my bench. I mean, these two aren't particularly exciting. They're just the cheapest starting players in their positions, right? But one sort of, I guess, slight upside to them is they both do play in Game Week 29 at the moment. They've got a confirmed fixture, so it's not all that bad, I guess. And even with this team, you could conceivably save your free hit if there are some cup upsets, right? And I think based on that, it's probably worth picking Areola and Taylor as your 2 bench options. Onto the midfield then, I've gone for Bukayo Saka, who I think is probably the best player in the game at the moment, and he actually has the top expected points total of any player in the game for Game Week 27. It's against Sheffield United, fantastic fixture of course. Yeah, he's got the vice captain, so you can probably guess who the captain of this team is, right? Next midfielder I went for is Son. I think if you're on your wild card, it really makes sense to get him into your team, and it's not because he's got a fixture in Game Week 29, it's just genuinely because he's one of the best players in the league. 9.6 million for the talisman, playing up front for Tottenham on penalties, got a great goal scoring record in previous seasons. I mean, he's a fantastic option, right? And a lot of players who are not on their wild card will probably be using their free transfers to either bring in a cheaper midfielder, the likes of Douglas Luiz, etc., who do not blank in Game Week 29, or a doubler, someone like, I don't know, Ross Barkley, who you can see I've already got in this team, or just someone with a double game week in 28, right? I don't think many players will be buying Heung-min Son in Game Week 28, which I think gives 27, sorry, which I think gives you ample opportunity to bring him in on your wild card. Cole Palmer, I don't really need to say much about him. He's probably proven to be the best value player in the game this season, particularly if you're free hitting in Game Week 29 when he doesn't have a fixture currently or he's likely to blank, I think he's a great option to go for. You know, Chelsea's talisman, best player, top goal scorer and penalty taker. I mean, the list goes on about good things about Cole Palmer. Douglas Luiz is my next player. He also benefits from having a fixture in Game Week 29. I mean, ultimately with this team, there might be a way you can wrestle it into a not needing to use your free hit, depending on how the cup results, you know, play out. But I haven't picked Douglas Luiz for that reason. I've picked him because I think he's genuinely one of the best midfielders in the game right now. I mean, nailed for 90 minutes, takes the penalties, pretty good from open play for Villa too, you know. He is turning into a genuinely goal-scoring midfielder. I mean, at the start of the season, I would never have considered picking Douglas Luiz. I think he's a centre defensive midfielder. I just didn't see him as an option, but he's really proved me wrong this season. I think he's a really shrewd pick. I've gone for my bench midfielder of Ross Barkley. He's got a chance of a fixture in Game Week 29, and he's got a double in Game Week 28, and I think it makes sense to go for him. You could potentially start him over maybe Cole Palmer or Douglas Luiz in Game Week 28, although that is a bit of a headache in itself, I'll admit. Up front, I think, to be honest, if you're on your wild card, the front three almost picks itself. Haaland, I've gone for him as captain in Game Week 27. I just got a feeling he's going to absolutely roll over Man United. Man United look pretty terrible defensively. And when you compare him to Saka, right, I know Saka's got Sheffield United, who are one of the bottom teams in the league. Don't get me wrong, they're one of the worst opposition, right? But their expected goals conceded stats are not that bad. I'd say Man United and Sheffield United for expected goals conceded at the moment are relatively level. And I just got a feeling Manchester derby, Haaland will do well against Man United. So for that reason, I've gone for him as captain. Watkins is the other striker. I think there's a genuine debate to be had between him and Tony. I mean, if you fancy Tony instead of Watkins to save yourself a bit of cash as well, you know, I wouldn't begrudge you doing that. I think Tony's a really good pick as well. I just think Watkins edges it because he's a little bit more creative as well. I think their goal scoring total will probably level out. They'll probably score the same amount of goals per game for the rest of the season. But Watkins is one of the top assisters in the league so far, and I think that's only going to continue. So for that reason, I think he's worth a little bit of extra budget and will hopefully return a few more points. And then you've got to go for Solanke, in my opinion. Got Burnley in Game Week 27, and then a really nice double game week. Sheffield United and Luton in a double. I think he's a really good captaincy shout in Game Week 28. I don't see any single game week player that kind of competes with him, really. And if you've got your triple captain left, I mean, you could well use it on him in Game Week 28. One thing I've done in previous wildcard draft videos, right, is I've struggled to build a team with the correct value of each player, but I've managed to nail it here. So this team, if you've got 100 million in the bank, will leave you 0.3 million spare. So it costs 99.7 million. And in Game Week 27, it's expected to get 68.5 points. And I'll just remind you, this is my optimal wildcard draft if you're planning to use your free hit in Game Week 29. Now, if you're not on your free hit in Game Week 29, not planning to use it, this is the draft I think you could go for. Same sort of defensive setup with Neto, Gabriel and Senesi, but I've gone for Matty Cash instead of Saliba, purely based on the fact I think he's going to be the most nailed Villa defender over the next few game weeks. I think Konsa still looks to be injured. Matty Cash obviously playing it right back in his place. Played full 90 in the last 3 games. The centre-back situation at Villa is a bit of a mess at the moment. Mings could be coming back fit. Pau Torres is injured. Don't know about Diego Carlos. And the left-back, it could be either Luca Dean or Alex Moreno that play there. So picking a Villa defender is a bit of a minefield. I think Matty Cash is probably the highlight. Son, Jarrod Bowen, Douglas Luiz and Saka in my midfield. Saka being the only player of those 4 without a fixture in Game Week 29. I do think you have to go for him with this team though because, well, you don't have Haaland as you can see. I've got Tony in there replacing Haaland and you need a captain for Game Week 27 in that case. And I think Saka is a genuine alternative to Haaland, right? I mean, he's on penalties for Arsenal. They're talisman. They've got a great fixture and he's the top player for expected points in Game Week 27. So he's a genuine captaincy alternative. And then come Game Week 28, you can put the armband on Solanke when he's got his double game week and then look potentially to transfer out Solanke for Game Week 29. Between now and Game Week 29, you'll of course have a couple of free transfers to use. That could help you get rid of some of these players that do blank for ones that don't. So yeah, the team by and large is quite similar. I think ultimately, you know, you're still picking some of the best players in the game. But if you're not on your free hit, you of course have to pick some players with a fixture in Game Week 29. we'll have to wait and see what happens with the FA Cup results, basically, to understand, you know, the full extent of the best team with no free hit in 29. But right now, with the information we have, I think this is the way you should be looking. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. I tried to cater for everyone there with the wildcard draft, basically, talking about if you're using your free hit or you're not in GameWeek 29. Of course, that's the main, distinguishing decision between the kind of players you look to buy. And ultimately, I've gone a bit early with this one. I might have another wildcard draft video out towards the end of the week when we know the FA Cup results, because right now I'm basing it on probabilities of things happening rather than actual reality. So gone a bit early, but hopefully it just gets the cogs whirring in your mind about the kind of team you want to pick. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you left me a like rating. You can subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just there, and I'll catch you soon with another video.